the same question that I asked Ayaz Bhai, in your field, okay, and what we would add on to what Sujani has spoken about you. Not only are you the champion of short films in Asia and India, but you at this college age, you look like a last year college student. You also are already a producer of Hindi
Right.
film, web series, and two wonderful musicals. And
Thank
that's
you.
something the youth are mad after you across India and couple of the countries around. Now,
Thank you, sir.
what is the message you like to give to our audience, especially the generation, the millennials and the Generation Z, who are faced with this dilemma of huge competition and expectations, and are slowly moving away from the traditional strengths that we have not only in India but across the globe. So we are not specific to India. We are talking of the youth across the globe. How do you guide them into nurturing and retaining the huge traditional values that we have? Over to you, Cyrus.
Thank you, sir. So there is just one simple mantra which I would like to tell people. I mean, I could, trust me, go on and on, but I will keep it, kind of short, because I know the attention span of people today, especially the audience that we are talking to, millennials, is short. So I'm just going to keep it short and tell them three words that I live by, and that is insistence, consistence, and persistence. I think that if you persist with something and if you're consistent with what you do, sooner or later you will reap the rewards. The problem with a lot of people is that they give up too easily. And I'm not trying to blame somebody, or I'm not trying to say that, their thinking is wrong. Unfortunately, we are today, I'm saying in today's times, the current generation is living in a time where they see so many things around them that they lose conviction very easily. And there is this new word that everybody's coined called FOMO and GOMO, which is the fear of missing out and the grief of missing out. So let's say if you are trying to make it in, as a writer or as an actor or as anything in what you, sorry, can you please check now? Yeah. So if you're trying to be a writer or an actor, I mean, this is a journey that will take time. Everybody has his own time, everybody has his own journey. I mean, I always tell people that, when you look at somebody who's made it at 18 and 19, you had the founder of KFC. I mean, you're from the business world, so you would know the founder of KFC, sir, started in his mid 60s, and he became a billionaire when I think he was almost 80 or something. So you have to remember that every human being has his or her own journey. So I can't be looking at Dr. Tony and saying, oh, but he became so big when he was 19 and 20, and I am missing out. So I get that fear of missing out. So people need to have the conviction. I mean, whenever you're picking up something, if you think you want to be an actor or you want to be a writer or anything to do with the media, be very sure of what you are doing. And once you are sure, then stick by it. Give it some time. Most people lose out not because they don't run fast enough, but because they do not run long enough. I mean, you could be talented, you could be very good looking, and then when you don't really get the chances, you see, oh, but this one is, and there's this new feeling that has crept into, especially since you're talking about millennials, that they look around and they start feeling that, oh, this person has so many followers on Instagram, and this person has so much of interaction or so much of response that he or she is on Instagram, and that has sadly become a yardstick. So if I see that, oh, this guy who's not even, I think he's not as talented as me or not as smart as me, but he has 10 times more followers than me. So then people suddenly start doubting themselves, saying, oh, what is happening with me that people are not appreciating me on social media? And sadly, if you start treating the response on social media as your yardstick and as your be all and end all, then I don't think that's a very correct measure of your success. So that's a correct yardstick. Fortunately, sir, you and I and a lot of older generation media. So there was no real pressure. Today, when you see life on social media and everybody looks good on social media, trust me, you could be going through a very bad time in life, but you post 5 pictures in a week looking happy. Everybody thinks, oh, you're so happy, your life is so cool. Why is my life not so cool? So I think people need to realize that social media is a bubble. I mean, it's good to go do some time pass and then come back, but there is a real world, and I think the real world is going to be around for many, many years to come, before maybe like a few centuries later the virtual world takes over. But yeah, this is what I think people need to realize. People need to realize the difference between the
Thank
virtual
you.
world.
Thank you.
So yes, this in your virtual world doesn't really. I mean, I'm not trying to belittle people, so I'm not trying to belittle people, but
Thank you.
focus
Yeah.
more on the real world, so I would say.
Thank you.
So yeah,
Thank
that
you,
is.
Mr. Dastur. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. That was
Thank you.
quite a perspective you have shared with us. And thank you, Dr. Paramar, for your insightful question as well.
Anything that you would like to add in, Dr. Parmar?
Hey, we can go ahead and I'll come in towards the end. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much, Mr. Dastur, for your time and the perspective that you shared with us.
Thank you.
We are thrilled to announce our next guest, Mr. Gautam Padmanabhan, the dynamic CEO of Westland Books, India's fifth largest English language publisher. A driving force in the joint venture with Landmark, he pioneered the import and distribution of US published books in India. So, we are thrilled to announce our next guest, Mr. Gautam Padmanabhan, the dynamic CEO of Westland Books, India's fifth largest English language publisher. A driving force in the joint venture with Landmark, he pioneered the import and distribution of US published books in India. Welcome, Mr. Padmanabhan. And Dr. Parma, we are excited to hear from you what the next question for Mr. Padmanabhan is. So, over to you.
After the brilliant talk by my dear friend Cyrus, insistence, consistence, and persistence, I'm beginning to learn a little about those words. We have a pioneer in the arena of publishing from the promoter family of Westland Books, and we're privileged to have him here on the panel. A huge following his publications and his family's venture that they are there, a scope of tremendous influence that they carry. So, the same question to you, Mr. Gautam. In today's challenging world, as a gentleman who holds so much of power and influence over the readership audience that you have, what are the words of wisdom you would like to share with them, especially to balance today's challenges with the virtues of life? Over to you.
Good morning, Mr. Dr. Parmar, and thank you for having me on this panel. Congratulations on the launch of your book. Coming very specifically to the challenges of publishing, there is a sense today that people are not reading enough. I mean, that's a general belief, though I don't quite agree with that, because if you look at the kind of sales of print books in the last few years, it has been surprisingly resilient. In fact, it has been growing, if not at very great numbers, but it's certainly not declining in the last few years. And more importantly, I think we have also seen the emergence of many new formats. So people don't necessarily read books as we understand them, but they engage with content in different ways. For example, today, for some years now, we've already had ebooks, audio books has emerged, podcasting has emerged, there are digital comics, and there are more formats that are likely to emerge in the coming years. And incidentally, now we are part of a company called Pratilipi, which runs a digital app which publishes in 12 languages. And we are seeing that that readers are engaging on an average something like 89 minutes a day on content on the app. So that clearly shows that reading has not come down. It's just that I think as publishers, our role now is to essentially identify what is possibly the best format to publish in and reach the reader. Coming to some of the tenets that we follow in publishing, it's always the case that we have to balance commercial considerations with identifying new authors. And as people, especially in traditional publishing, who play a role of curation, we do believe that it's very important that we identify new writers, find new genres, in fact, of writing that might emerge. And that's a constant challenge for us, and we're constantly aware of. Publishing typically works on a very let's say, classic principle of 80-20 rule, where 20% of your titles will going to give you 80% of your revenue. And so we're always looking for those best-selling titles that are going to give us that 20% revenue. But for the rest, we do look at, like we do give our editors the freedom to be passionate about certain books and, try out new experiments. For instance, we do publish poetry, which is seen as something that is not commercial at all. But we do believe that we should publish at least 3 to 5 titles in a year, in the space of poetry. Another tenet that we do follow is that we see ourselves as an Indian publisher, which means that we don't just simply publish in English, but we are always exploring other Indian languages as well. And I mean, today it's very fashionable to talk about pan-Indian movies. Similarly, we would like to be known in the long term as a pan-Indian publisher. The next point that I would like to stress on is diversity of views. I think any publisher should be open to publishing all kinds of views, all kinds of thought, be it social, political, gender related, without taking a stance. In a democracy, I think it's very important for the publisher to be able to express or provide a platform to express all types of views, as long as, of course, we are not in any way going against the law of the land, or for instance, getting into areas of hate speech. It's very important that we don't we are mindful of these. Lastly, when it comes to children's publishing, I think that's the space where we are also a little more conscious of what kind of values we are, that the titles that we publish are, in a way, putting forward. And while it's at the same time, one doesn't want to publish content which, just becomes like reading a textbook. It's important that the stories that we publish, while being entertaining, should also, at the end of it, stress on certain values. So that's basically the tenets of publishing that we follow in West.
Yeah, thank you so much for the direct views of a publisher on the background that goes behind the publishing of the various books. These are invaluable comments coming in, because most of us don't understand the thought process behind the experts who are sitting here, the industries which are here. So I'm sure each one of us in the audience are getting to learn a lot on the background aspects of the values that are there per industry.
So thank you, Mr. Gautam. Your experience has given us great lessons about the publishing industry, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Now, it is now my honor to introduce our next guest, Dr. Sanjeev Bansal, our esteemed Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies and Director of Amity Business School. With 34 years of exemplary service, he is a visionary leader, a prolific researcher, and an academic luminary, shaping futures and fostering excellence in education. So, Dr. Sanjeev Bansal, we welcome you.
Dear friends, a question to all of you. At what age do we finish our graduation, or maybe our post-graduation? 20, 21, 22? At what age do we get into the industry, our career? 23, 24, 25. We have here a gentleman amongst the youngest PhD doctorates in the country, definitely in Delhi University, who went on to become the youngest HOD of his department and youngest dean of his university, the world-renowned Amity University, and that's Dr. Sanjeev Bansal. We are privileged to have you here, sir, and you represent here in the panel the expertise of the academia, the universities. You represent the students who are the foundation and fundamental block of any society and country. And all the more important that human values, ethics, and morals are ingrained in them, instilled in them at that fundamental and foundational level. So the same question to you, sir. In this challenging world, especially in millennials and Generation Z now, where career orientation, job orientation, excelling in life is probably the sole objective and target, how do you balance in instilling in them the tremendously important human values, ethics, honesty, and morals. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Parmar, for the kind words. But let me just tell you, you are an amazing person. I know the kind of activities you are involved in, the time I know. I mean, it's amazing. First of all, I'm a teacher by choice. This is the only introduction I have. And on the personal front, I am basically on this journey of human being to being human. I'm just trying to be. We are all learners. We are all students. And when we speak about ethics, I mean, Sujini, I am just giving you a task. The moment you hand over the mic to a teacher, it's very difficult to stop. So please do stop if I exceed my time limit. This is a problem with all the teachers. First of all, Dr. Parmar, when you speak about ethics, now ethics or life, when you speak about, to me, life is to accept our mistakes and apologize wherever we feel we have done something wrong. And whenever we see somebody else has done some mistakes, we have to forgive. So कुछ इस तरह से फकीर ने जिंदगी की मिसाल दी, मुट्ठी में धूल ली फिर हवा में उछाल दी. This is the kind of philosophy we should be all having. So when I speak about ethics, when I go, you should be knowing that nowadays we have to teach ethics also, which is the most painful experience I have. Because when you speak about ethics, when you speak about ethos, when you speak about set of moral principles, when you speak about the combination of moral principles, including morals, laws, values, fairness, equity, truthfulness, I think these are all very, very strong words. And believe you me, this is the philosophy I believe in. Nobody can teach, or you cannot inculcate anything in anybody. This is simply your choice. But as a teacher, we always do, we always try to. And I feel in the next generation, the ZG, as you say, the most important thing would be to, I mean, the illiterate would be called who is not knowing how to de-learn and relearn. And I believe in the philosophy that every student, every person, every human being is basically aware of everything. The only problem is the moment he or she realizes that this is the time to wake up, they start doing it. So as we say, we have two births. Two births, one is at the time of our birth, and the second is when we realize why we have taken birth. The moment we realize, I think then all these strong words, ethics, ethos, and everything becomes hygiene. So my only take for the student, on the daily basis, I deal with hundreds of students. I go to different classes for different committees. I see there is definitely a change in the pattern. There is definitely, but I believe that good sanskars, good learnings, good value system, if you feel so, it will definitely come back to them. So from my side, I say that teaching ethics is something which is not possible. So when I go to a class, when I address somebody, when I address to some students, I only believe in one target, that if whatsoever I am trying to tell, if 1% of the people, 1% of the student can get 1% of that thing, I think my target is achieved. So if in this life, only 1% of the people, or at least one person we can educate, we can make change, then I think it's going to serve the purpose.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bansal. Invaluable insights there, especially with thousands and lakhs of students going through your guru's, teachings. I myself have been your student, and for the benefit of the audience, both my PhDs were done under the guidance and guidership of Dr. Bansal. And I know him, how passionate he is, how spiritual he is, and how true he is to his job. Thank you so much, Dr. Bansal.
Thank you, Dr. Bansal. Thank you, Dr. Parmar. Listening to your thoughts, listening to both of your insights, we definitely have a lot to learn from you. Now, before we share the floor with our next speaker, we have a special message as promised. about the true meaning of life values from our guest, who is going to join us through a short video clip that he has so kindly shared us with all. So it's going to be Mr. Rajiv Sardesai. Uh, Mr. Rajiv Sardesai is a senior journalist and the author of the best-selling book 2014, The Election That Changed India. With 26 years of journalistic experience in print and TV, Mr. Sardesai was the managing editor of NDTV Network before he set up the IBN 80 network with the channels like CNN, IBN as a founding editor. He began his career with the Times of India and was a city's editor of its Mumbai edition at the age of 26. He is presently a consulting editor with India Today Group and anchors a prime time show on India Today. Let's hear it from Mr. Desai.
Yeah, while Sujini is putting on the video, Rajdeep and me are batchmates from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. A wonderful gentleman who has done extremely well in the area of broadcasting and journalism with keen interest in sports. And it's a great pleasure that he agreed despite his extremely, we know what's going on around, on the political scenario, on the sports scenario. He agreed and consented to give this short video. So over to Rajdeep.
Impart and inculcate.
Can you
I want to congratulate my friend T.S Parmar for putting this book together.
I hope everyone can hear the audio clip.
Yes,
because I think the best thing that you can do is impart and inculcate values to Gen Next. In journalism too, I believe that there is a crying need to have a course in values, in ethics, in teaching young journalists what is right and what's wrong. Because unless you embrace values, to my mind, your career has a big hole in it. So therefore, I think what Tony is doing and what I think all of us really should be doing is making that effort to create a bank of knowledge about values, about ethics, that will, in a way, instill confidence in the next generation that they too can build a successful professional life without compromising on core values. Once again, all the best to you, Tony, on putting together this book.
Thanks to Rajdeep for those inputs, valuable inputs on value of life and ethics, more so in the area of journalism, which again is a highly competitive and distracting area where it can be influenced by multiple sources. So thank you, Rajdeep, for those special inputs.
Thank you, sir. Simran, now on to you. Your mic is muted, Simran. Are you able to unmute?
Yes, I'm able to
Alright.
unmute. Yeah. So, thank you once again, Mr. Rajiv Sardesai, for taking out time and sharing this video, even though you had an extremely busy schedule. And with that, we'll move on to the next panelist. So, I'm thrilled to present Mr. Pawan Chaudhary, a public intellectual, corporate leader, keynote speaker, and exceptional business and life coach. His profound insights and diverse expertise promise an unforgettable journey into the realms of leadership, business, and more. So get ready to be inspired. Dr. Parmar, over to you for your question.
Mr. Pawan and me date back very long, many decades back. As kids, we were friends. In the profession, we were colleagues. And today, we are very close friends. And it's a great privilege and pleasure knowing Pawan, who's an all-rounded personality, a great friend, a great socialist, a wonderful professional. And in today's panel, he represents the cutthroat, fiercely competitive corporate world. And he also comes from the family who are the influencers and creators of probably India's first professional platform, something like the LinkedIn, but it's on invitation. And it's doing wonderfully well. He not mentioned it, but I thought it is important to mention that. And I'm sure they will let in more number of us because today they are only going to a select few. And we'll also soon qualify for that. Over to you, Pawan, for your wonderful words. And just one add-on, just one add-on before you unmute. Mr. Pawan probably has not yet got out of his bath and bed. because it's very early and he's consented to speak to us from Paris, where he's on an official trip. Thank you, Pawan. Unmute yourself, please. Unmute.
Sir, are you able to unmute?
I'm trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We
Yes,
can.
sir.
So, thank you very much, Tony, for having me on the panel. And we are all similar people on the panel. Whether it is you or I think we look at the world similarly. And whether it is Dr. Bansal or Cyrus, we are resonating the same thought. One person is missing in the panel. Who is that person? The devil is missing in the panel. So because you have spoken to me, you have told the audience that I am coming from the cutthroat world of the corporate sector. Let us bring in the devil. And let me say the most important ambassador of devilry is Machiavelli. And Machiavelli says that a good person will not succeed amidst so many bad people, because most of the people are bad. A good person will not succeed. And he has not been able to be countered. Though he grazed on the fringes of philosophy, till date, we have not been able to counter him very, very strongly. Again and again, this point comes up. Even Jesus says that go into the world like doves, but beware of the serpent. That means the serpents are there. And I have, and I'm sure you also, Tony, have no sympathy for the virtuous loser. Because the virtuous loser, through his own example, tells the world not to follow his path of virtue. A person like you is a virtuous winner. The other people on the panel are virtuous winners. That is why they are on the panel. You've got the who's who. So we should tell, I feel, this audience as to how to handle the world and be successful without compromising your principles. They say, हाथी घूमे बाजार, कुत्ता भौंके हजार. But it is not just like, it's not so simple as that. हाथी घूमे बाजार, but अब कुत्ते जो हैं वो झुंड में चलने लगे हैं, भेड़िए हो गए. तो हाथियों को भी झुंड में चलना चाहिए. The moral people also need to pair up with their counterparts to handle the unscrupulous people. And in any highly competitive space where the stakes are high, the prize is big, I am reminded of a song to which a new stanza has been added by a bureaucrat who is embellishing Bollywood classic melodies with even better stanzas than what they had. So this stanza which he has added is to mere dile nadan tu gam se na ghabrana. What does he say in that stanza? तूफान तो आएगा, सागर की ये फितरत है. तूफान तो आएगा, सागर की ये फितरत है. लहरों से लड़ेगा वो जिस शख्स में हिम्मत है. टूटी भी हो कश्ती तो लहरों से ना घबराना. ऐ मेरे दिले नादान तू गम से ना घबराना. तूफान तो आएगा, बिग फाइट में तूफान आएगा. So big fight means big prize के लिए, the kind of prizes which the panelists have won. So what we need to do is we need to see how to handle and be the virtuous winners. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change which you wish to see in the world. I don't agree with him, though I have high regard for Mahatma Gandhi. When he says, be the change which you wish to see in the world, I say, the sheep can pass as many resolutions in favor of vegetarianism as they want. But till the wolf remains of a different opinion, non-vegetarianism will prevail in the world, in the jungle. That means if the wolf is too powerful, you cannot convert him by passing resolutions. You have to poison him. You have to handle him in a group. So this is what I would like to say. Otherwise, what happens is that today's idealist is tomorrow's cynic. आज हम वैल्यू सिस्टम की बात करेंगे, कल हम जब हार जाएंगे तो हम सिनिक हो जाएंगे. हमें वो नहीं होना है. हमें टोनी परमार जैसे लोगों से इंस्पिरेशन लेना है कि वैल्यू सिस्टम पे भी टिके रहे और सक्सेसफुल भी हुए. और हमें सक्सेस की एपेटाइट पे भी कंट्रोल करना है. जैसा साइरस ने बोला, that we cannot keep on comparing how many likes we have got with the other. Similarly, you should not compare how much money which you have got with the other as compared to the other. Let me tell you, I have a small coaching practice. I have written a book, When You're Sinking, Become a Submarine, on how the principled man can win. And I'm a very strong propagator of principles. But when I see the super rich, I realize that contrary to popular belief, there is not great instance of intellect there, or value system, or even sense of humor or social graces. Then how the super rich are getting there? Talent and hard work everybody puts in. The main thing which they are getting through is luck and very cunning instinct of self-preservation as well as counter-attack. So these things we also need to learn, and then factor in the principles in such a manner that you are a virtuous warrior, resilient as Ayaz said, and who gets up again and again. क्योंकि तूफान तो आएगा, सागर की ये फितरत है. लहरों से लड़ेगा वो जिस शख्स में हिम्मत है. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you for those wonderful quotes and shairis and excellent messages with a different perspective, where you said, if the devil is not there, the contrast is not visible, and the righteousness, the goodness, and the virtues will not shine out. But another point which comes out strongly is because of the strong headwind of the anti-forces, it's also important for the good forces to join and align ourselves. So wonderfully said. I will also attempt a shairi before moving on.
Go ahead.
These words have no meaning. This is not the shairi, obviously, unless there is an action to the thought process. तो दोस्तों, मंजिल तो मिल ही जाएगी, थोड़ा भटक के, थोड़ा मुश्किल से ही सही. हारे तो वो हैं जो अपने घर से निकले ही नहीं.
Absolutely wonderful.
So we have to take the first steps. We have to take the initial initiative. Over to you, anchors. Unmute yourself, please.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you for those wonderful words and sharing those wonderful poems with us. And Dr. Parmar, I'd also like to extend another words of gratitude to you for leading such an eloquent and stimulating discussion. So, may I request a few words from you about the book that we are all excited to hear, get our hands on, Shades of Life. What drew you to this project? What was your experience writing it? Could you please share some words with us?
Absolutely. It's very important to know the perspective, the passion, and the genesis of the book. This is my second book. The first book was influenced by Dr. Bansal, under whom I did my PhD, and there was a lot of extra material. which we structured and created the first book. So that was more technical. But this book, ladies and gentlemen, is something which is very close to my heart on a topic which is so passionate to each one of us. I could see the passion and the energy and the bubble, actually waiting to explode from each of our enlightened speakers and panelists here. And I must add on that each one of them is a leading light in their respective field, but is also a wonderful person, wonderful human being. And I think it shows and reverberates in each one of them. Unfortunately, what's happened, India is a treasure of tradition and values and heritage, which has basically been passed on through the generations. And I'm sure across the globe, across the countries, they have their own strong culture because the stock is going across the globe. And there are a lot of virtues which need to be passed on from generation to generation, which were passed on. But I'm close to 60 now, and I've seen three generations very closely, including my own generation. I've seen, unfortunately, the dilution of this baton getting passed on of tradition and values. Even of greater concern is the application and conviction of the values and the morals from generation to generation. I don't blame the generation which is facing this conflict. It's probably due to the changing environment and the perspectives. So therefore, I thought it was my moral duty, along with all of us who have the same thought process, to create a strong platform and foundation which will ensure that even our current and future generations don't lose out on these virtues. And that was the basic genesis which came through. And I thought it was very important not to force through this thought process, but to share our thought process, because any shortcut or deviation from the right path, okay, may give temporary success, but would definitely lead to a long-term fall. So that was the thought process, and therefore we collated this entire concept. Before we go on further, okay, I have this very specific sharing on this topic, and this is something many of my friends would have heard in the past also. Focus, perseverance, consistency, persistence is something which all of us have used, all our speakers, because when the thoughts are the same, the words can vary, but the message is going to be the same. So my message through this Sherry is focus on your goal. Don't look for results, they will happen. Enjoy the path. मंजिल पे हमारी नजर थी, मंजिल पे हमारी नजर थी, हम गिरते रहे, गिर गिर के संभलते रहे, आंधियों ने बहुत कोशिश की, फिर भी तूफानों में हमारे चिराग जलते रहे, जलते रहे. There will be cyclones, there will be hurricanes, but if your conviction and if your destination is very clear, you will achieve your goals. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your thought process and some inspiration to all of us. We're certainly going to take a lot away from this and apply some of your values and some of what you are trying to tell us all in our own lives as well. Simran, I pass on the mic to you now. Simran?
Yes. So now the moment we've all been waiting for has finally arrived, the virtual launch of Shades of Life, a tapestry of existence that unfolds into diverse hues. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the screening.
like to extend our words of gratitude to everyone who's joining us today. Please allow me to share my screen again.
Yeah, sure. So, friends, like I was mentioning, this book is not presented to you as a reader. We are confident that you'll identify yourself as one of the characters and flow with the story and the families who are part of our life. Whether you're in India, Asia, or any continent across the globe, you will surely identify with one of the characters and probably also take some inputs from the other characters. Let's have a look at this thanks video. Thanks to Mr. Ayaz Neman, Mr. Cyrus Dastur, Mr. Gautam Padmanabhan, Mr. Pavan Chaudhary from Paris, and my PhD Guru, Dr. Sanjeev Bansal, for their brilliant and insightful conversations and insights to all of us. And to Mr. Rajiv Desai, whose video clip despite his busy schedule. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your kind words. Now, on to you, Simran.
Yes, so once again, thanks to all of our panelists for being with us today. And it was a truly inspiring session for all. And what an incredible journey it has been. A huge thank you to our amazing guests as well as our author, Dr. T.S. Parmar. And of course, for all of you for have joined us today. And last but not the least, a huge shout out to all of those who have joined us for today's session. Over to you, Sujini.
Thank you, Simran. That was truly inspiring to hear from you all. It turns out we do have our audience who also have some interesting questions for us. Sir, if you would, shall we hear them out?
Yeah, what we have actually done, Sujini, is we have already collated the questions. So instead of taking individual questions, one question which has come to Dr. Bansal. Dr. Bansal, the question is, in fact, there are a set of questions which we have clustered together. Is our education system today tuned to the thought process that you have actually expressed in your talk?
Yes, Dr. Parmar. I mean, well, if I say that education system since beginning, since its inception, is in basically sync with the requirements of the only thing is it's only us who are changing. Only us who are changing, but this is definitely in sync with the requirements we see nowadays. As I told you, value-based education is also given a very big priority, and in every program, every course, since especially after new education policy, we are introducing these courses in all the programs from school education to higher education also. So this is very much in sync, sir. Only one thing, Dr. Parmar, I would like to say in continuation, because you used a word which is very close to my heart. It's called righteousness. So the only thing is, when you are on the path of righteousness, there is nothing to be, I mean, this is something where you will definitely feel obstacles, you will feel difficulties. But one thing is for sure, on the path of righteousness, traffic is slightly lesser. So if you follow that path, you will definitely reach to the heights soon, for sure.
Absolutely. So true. You have to have your confidence and conviction. Yeah.
And one more thing, sir, like which Mr. Gautam said, I am also of the same viewpoint also. See, we recently saw Rat Miner's case. So despite of all our latest technologies and everything, we proved that still humans are the best. So human cannot be replaced. Same ways, we may be having different modes, medias, but books are the best way to represent ourselves. And definitely, if we represent, if we are, in a habit of reading the books, I think this is the best thing. So I again congratulate you on this particular book, which is the essential requirement for nowadays in all the kind of education systems.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Bansal, for your incredible words. It truly has been such an incredible journey. I would like to extend a huge thank you to our amazing guests, our fantastic author, Dr. T.S. Parmar, and of course, to all of you who've joined us today. And at last but not least, A huge shout out to all the participants who have shared their appreciation to the author and who have shared their best wishes on our chat board about how they've enjoyed learning so much from our guest speakers and from our authors. I appreciate all your comments. Simran, on to you.
Yeah, sorry, I was unable to mute. So, once again, thanks to everyone for attending today's session. And thank you for your question as well, and to all the speakers who've been a part of this great journey today. And remember, Shades of Life is not just a book, it's an experience. So, go grab your copy and immerse yourself in its pages. So, once again, thank you, Dr. Parmar, who's also my dad, and congratulations once again on the book. So over to you, Dad, for any last words if you have.
Yeah, okay. Thank you all. Actually, there are a couple of questions which are pending, so we'll take another 2 minutes. Mr. Pavan, there are a lot of corporate friends who are here. So they said, yes, righteousness and morals, ethics, all are good. What about the top line and bottom line figures which are driven by all corporates? So some quick insights on that.
That's what Tony, as you remember in our younger days, there was a saying, गाय का कैरेक्टर तो बहुत अच्छा है लेकिन दूध देती है कि नहीं, तो हमें दूध देने वाला भी बनना है एंड एट द सेम टाइम वो कैरेक्टर को प्रिजर्व करके रखना है. दैट मीन्स कैरेक्टर कैन नॉट बी a replacement for competence, for competitiveness. We have to compete, as what Ayaz said, that fair play should be there, but the target should be very clear that we are going for the podium. Even if we are not number one, then also we should reach the podium or at least get a consolation prize. A consolation prize is also enough. And I would like to, I think you are the best person to be the ambassador of such an ethos, that you were successful, the top lines and bottom lines were coming, everything was happening ethically, and at the same time you were rising like a star. For me, a person like you is much more respectable and admirable than the biggest CEOs or people who are flying in jets. Because if you have compromised character or you have compromised executive norms of behavior, that is also very important. You have not compromised executive norms of behavior. And by executive norms of behavior, I mean to say, some people reach high just by behaving very obsequiously, very deferentially, over respectfully. I feel that you have preserved both the sides of the ego. One side of the ego brings creativity. The other side of the ego, which is pointed and which hurts people, should be rounded off. But the first side of ego should remain some base, because that is going to generate creativity. And you have rounded off the other side. Your ego doesn't hurt people, but it creates things. And it has brought you to this space that you've come out with a book where you are talking about the fact that this is possible and you're showing the path. So I feel top line, bottom lines, and podium, everything is possible without bending your morals and ethics. But you have to be very sharp for that. You have to be very resilient for that. You have to be very perceptive for that. ईमानदार और तेज तर्रार होना चाहिए. अगर सिर्फ ईमानदार होगे तो हारोगे और फिर बुरा एग्जाम्पल सेट करोगे लोगों के सामने. लोग बोलेंगे ईमानदार नहीं होना चाहिए.
So well said. I've actually learned from all of you. I've been so closely associated with all of you, and obviously a few others who have been following the same path. And I must add that while this path might be a little tougher, a little longer, but it is a path which will surely get you to your destination and even beyond, while the others who looked ahead of you would be lost way behind you. And that is a fact of life, and it'll happen within the same life. Be right, be correct. You'll have a nice sleep, and you'll also be successful in life. So thank you so much, all of you. The audience has been wonderful. We have had a large number of people listening to each one of you so very attentively, and these clippets will be posted on the social media so that more number of people get value from the wonderful insights given by each one of you. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for taking out time from your busy schedules. Over to the anchors.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us, for lending your ears, and for your interest in Shades of Life. Copies of which are available for pre-order on Amazon. So please don't forget to go grab your copies. Please don't forget to read the book and leave your comments on the same. And we can't wait to hear from you what you got to say about the book. And least of all, thank you so much, Dr. Parmar, for your journey with us, and for Simran for agreeing to host with me. It was wonderful working with you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. We will follow up this virtual launch with a physical launch at the prestigious World Book Fair in Delhi. And I must thank the entire Pratiklipi, Westland Books, and the Right Order, the one organization, for being an integral part of this journey of publishing this book with me. Thank you all so very much. And with your permission, we like to close this session. Thank you so much.